Hi, my name is Luke.
Hello, Luke. How can I support you today?
Well, I am going through a really tumultuous breakup with a girlfriend of about a year. I'm a sober alcoholic. I've been sober for 2 years and met this person in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's been a very toxic kind of relationship. There's been probably 3 or 4 separate times of this person ending the relationship and then coming back later, saying that things would be different, and then leaving again, pretty soon after. And this happened again this past week, and I'm very sad about it. I let myself believe that things would be different this time around, and they were not. And so I've just recently kind of been left again, and feel very disappointed and disappointed in myself, and very lonely, and just in some emotional pain over it, and thought maybe I could get some guidance about that.
Okay. What, if anything, do you know about the Reality Management Worksheet? Are you familiar with it? Have you ever done any?
I believe I've done some, yes, the wake-up sheet. I think there are a few different worksheets kind of out there.
Yeah, the primary tool is the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And the direct way to assist you is to figure out what's the strongest emotion you have right now that's unpleasant, that your mind is telling you is caused by what this other person did or didn't do.
Okay.
So what would be the strongest emotion that you have right now that your mind wants you to think is happening only because of this other person?
Would sadness be too general?
Yep, sadness. No, sadness is a very, very powerful emotion. So are you willing to walk through a worksheet? I don't know if you have access to the internet right now where you are, but if you did, you could, or if you have access to an actual worksheet. There's a 7-step worksheet process, which is the one we usually do on the internet show here, simply because it's available free online. And so if people download that worksheet process and then they listen to this audio, it can serve like a tutorial for them.
Okay. How do I reach that?
So do you have internet access right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you go to the whyagain.org, WHYAGAIN.org.
Okay. I'm there.
And in the upper left-hand corner, there's 2 words that say Start Here.
Okay.
And when you click on that, it says Worksheets to Print and Use.
Okay.
And so right there near the top of the page, it says a 7-step wake-up sheet revised in May of 2022. Do you see that?
Yes.
That's the one, or something very close to it, that we'll use.
Okay, great.
So you can either just look at that or print that out or whatever, So the worksheet has as its premise that your very nature is this energy of creation. Some call it love. And the purpose of the worksheet is to empower you to remove anything like hostility or fear or sadness or any of those negative emotions, so you get returned to this direct experience of yourself as this energy of creation expressing in form. So then you have calm or contentment or joy. We don't know what will replace it, but when you dismantle the negative emotions, it's a lot easier to see the gift of life and have appreciation for it. So the worksheet says, I, Luke, who am this energy of love, the heart in this space is a substitute for the word love, and that's just a time saver because you can see how busy that worksheet is. I am feeling sadness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm filling that out. I'm filling out a blank worksheet for you here so I can keep track of what we're doing. And then it says today's date. So we just make a quick note here that we're on the 22nd of November. And we're asked, how strong would you say your sadness is? If 0 is no sadness and 10 is the most it could be, how strong would you say your sadness is right now?
8.
All right. We'll just put an 8 in there. And then the worksheet says, anytime I have hostility or fear, it's coming from internal corrupt data that's indicating that my mind is using a process called sustained incoherence. To sustain something is to keep it going, and to have something be incoherent mean it doesn't make any sense. And what that talks about is I use a process of my thought to create something painful, and then I think if I just think enough, I can get rid of it. So that's what sustained incoherence refers to. And it builds this construct in my mind that keeps telling me I know I'm right, even though I'm in this pain or fear or sadness. And whenever I'm in denial about how I'm creating my own emotions, that part of my brain that just does what it's told to do over and over again replaces my experience of myself as love and tells me a lie that someone or something outside of me is causing my upset. So I'm just going to put, so you don't even have to say anybody's name, I'm just going to say girlfriend, and then there's a comma, and after the comma, I'm going to write broke up with you. Does that fit?
Yes.
Okay. And the purpose here is to just have a little bit of a description of what's going on in your life right now that you think is causing your sadness. So if you come back to this worksheet 6 days or 6 weeks from now, you'll remember what it was about. So you don't have to get any big, long description here.
Okay.
And then it asks me to take a deep breath and slow the exhale down. And this is because if I do that and I exert control over the muscles in my throat and chest and diaphragm, it helps my body understand I'm not in a life and death situation here. So a nice deep breath, hold it for a count or two at the top, and then slowly exhale helps my body calm down. And there's a reminder in that little box that says, if I'm in pain, my thinking is in error. And then the next step on the worksheet says 1D. And it says, the truth is only my thoughts cause my emotional upset. And it reminds me to take another breath and slow the exhale down. So if I do that, then it says, only my thoughts create my upset, so what thought am I using to create sadness in this moment? What thought are you thinking over and over again that every time you think of it, you feel the stronger energy of sadness?
Hmm. That I'll never find someone I love like that again.
Let me stop you right there. I'm just going to write that in this list. I will never find someone to love again. Now, I left out a word or two of what you said because this is more global, right?
Okay.
Instead of someone like her, etc., I'm just writing, I will never find someone to love again. And if you keep thinking the thought, I will never find someone to love, you can imagine your sadness would deepen even more, right?
Yeah.
So take another breath. Notice what you're doing with your breath. We tend to lock down our breath or breathe very shallowly whenever a negative emotional state comes up. So if you take another breath, the next step on the worksheet says 1E. And now it asks me to get clear about what punishment thought do I have. So what punishment thought do you have for this girlfriend? What angry, hurtful thought do you have towards her?
Oh, that she doesn't care about me, lied.
Okay, so a punishment thought might be something like, I want to tell everybody that she's a liar, or I want her to know how bad I'm hurt. I want her to hurt the way I'm hurting, or I want to never talk to her again, or what kind of a punishment thought like that are you aware of, if any, towards her in this moment?
I want her to be miserable without me.
All right. So I'm just writing, I want her to be miserable. And do you have a punishment thought for yourself? Like, I'm such an idiot, or what is wrong with me that I can't get people to love me, or...
Sure, that I'm, how did I fall for this again? I won't be able to get anyone to love me. I'm going to miss her immensely forever.
Right. So the punishment thought for yourself might be, I'm stupid for falling for this.
Okay.
Does that fit? Because
Yeah.
you're thinking a negative thought about yourself and your lack of intelligence or whatever. So the second step in this worksheet says 2A, I choose to love truth. I choose to value truth above everything else. And I willingly face and process out all of the dis-ease-producing energies for and from all of my relations and the generations. So take a breath every time I stop, and I'll put a check mark in the box for you. And it says, I willingly go through the physical, the mental, and the emotional symptoms of healing. So take another breath and slowly exhale down. And I'm putting a check mark in that box. Now, what are the physical, mental, emotional symptoms of healing? Well, you have to just get ready for the fact that you've got some negative energy in you that you're using to generate this sadness, and it got absorbed into you probably throughout your life. And if you do a worksheet like this and release it as it moves out, it may feel as uncomfortable as it did coming in. So you might have aches or pains, you might develop a headache, you might feel depressed, you might feel confused, etc. You might feel fatigue physically. And we gear up for that in this worksheet and say, if that happens after this worksheet, I'm willing to feel it and just keep my breath moving and drink some nice clean water and let it pass rather than fight it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the third step is my desire, the constructive result, the goal that drives this pain perception is, what do you want this girlfriend to do? In a perfect world, without the punishment thought, if you had a magic wand that you could wave, what would you want to make happen between you and her? What would you want her to say and do or be that's different?
I'd want her to love me unconditionally.
Okay, so I'm going to say, love me. And I'm going to put respect me and stay connected to me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I'm just putting the and stay connected because you've mentioned that there have been several breakups already, right?
Yes. Yep.
So to address that, we're putting in this stay connected part.
Okay.
Love me, respect me, and stay connected. How does that feel to have that as a goal? Like if that were to happen, it would make this whole worksheet we're doing unnecessary, right? Because if she would love you, respect you, and stay connected to you, you wouldn't be feeling sad right now, right?
Right. That feels like the exact goal.
Okay. So then take a breath with that and slow the exhale down. And in this little box here it says, I release and surrender myself and my emotions. I surrender my girlfriend and my thoughts about her, my story that she is breaking up with me, and my thoughts that I will never find somebody to love again. And I'm releasing my punishment thought to have her be miserable, and my punishment thought for myself. I'm releasing all of that to this energy of creation that we call love. And then just breathe. And at this point in time, if you're fairly new to the worksheets, it may not make much of a difference to say that, but think this or say this, and over time, as you pair that with this calming breath, you'll condition yourself to start relaxing and releasing at least some of the physical tension every time you say, I cancel this, I release this, I let this go. And then in the column over here on the right side, it says, remember, if they are the one with the problem, there's a question, why am I the one with the pain? And then there's a cancellation that we're asked to make, the beginning of canceling my need to be right. And it reads, I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my need to make up another story, another explanation out of what my brain is telling me is happening, so that I can be certain I'm right and this fear-based or hostility-based story I have is true. So just breathe and soften and either say out loud or think the words, I cancel my need to be right, and I cancel my need to think that my explanation of what's going on here is the only true one. And just take a breath and do a nice slow exhale. What are you noticing? What are you feeling right now?
More relaxation in the moment.
Okay, that's good enough. Now we'll move over to number 4. And number 4 says, I choose love. Remember, every time there's a heart on this worksheet, we substitute the word love. Love is my essence, and when I do that, it stirs the love in everyone involved. Are you familiar with the rose and the butterfly story?
No, I don't think so.
So let's imagine we have a rose and a butterfly. And they both have an ego, and they fall madly in love. And the butterfly flits around the rose and lands on it and drinks its nectar, and everything is wonderful. And one day, the butterfly, true to its nature, takes off and flies away. The rose, mistaking the butterfly as being more important than anything else, uproots itself to chase after the butterfly. What happens to a rose that's been uprooted?
It dies.
It dies. Why did it die? Because it made something else more important than being connected to its source. So that's the premise of this worksheet. Take a breath as we remember the beginning of the worksheet says, your true nature is love. And anything you do with your thoughts that takes you out of that awareness is the same kind of thing as uprooting yourself the way the rose did. So in step 4, we like to do a little meditation. We'd like to have you agree to do a little meditation here. If you're comfortable with it, you don't need to close your eyes, but you can. Put your hand over your heart space if you're comfortable with that. Breathe and soften and think about one of the most happy times in your life. Now, in a situation like this, it's probably best not to make it be one of those memories with this other person or whoever is the target of the worksheet.
Okay.
But think about a time in your life, whether it's recent or distant past, where you felt happy, safe, strong, confident, joyful. And just breathe into that and bring up the memory so that you can remember where you were, how old you were, who else was there, and what was happening until you start to feel a shift in your heart space away from this sadness you were generating moments ago to this loving, warm, safe, joyful energy. And just breathe into that until you feel a shift in your heart space and strengthen it. And let me know when you've been successful in changing the energy you feel in your heart space because you're pouring your mind energy into this memory that was so contented, happy, joyful, strong, safe, etc. Remember to keep breathing. Did you get a shift?
I think a little bit.
Okay. So then let's move to number 5. Number 5 says, whenever I'm upset, my perception is built out of corrupt data. Now that's the second time in this worksheet we're being told that any time we're upset, we're not seeing the whole picture. And or we're focusing on something and interpreting it negatively when it doesn't have to be negative. So my perception is built out of corrupt data, and it's a limiting picture constructed from a tiny bit of information, 9 bits of data, let's say, during the time my brain cells in the frontal lobes of my brain are processing 10,000 bits of data, and maybe 20 trillion bits of data are hitting my senses, just to get an idea of how tiny my focus is right now. Does this make sense to you? When you're focused on this girlfriend leaving, can you think about anything else when that sadness comes up?
No.
Isn't that amazing? It's like the whole world disappears, and I have this myopic, microscopic focus on this one set of interactions with this one person. Meanwhile, I'm on a planet with, 8 billion other people, and we're spinning through space, and there's all kinds of politics going on. There's all kinds of wonderful science stuff going on, and I don't get to focus on any of it. So whenever I'm upset, that's been happening. My focus has gotten so narrow that I'm obsessed at a tiny, tiny bit of what's processing in my brain, and I'm missing the bulk of 20 trillion bits minimum that are going on in that moment. So this thing says, by canceling my goal, in this case, if you cancel your goal for the girlfriend to love you, respect you, and stay connected to you, that replicate part of your mind shuts down because it's the one that just keeps holding that goal, that just keeps obsessing about her, that has your focus so narrow, right? And it shuts down, and it can give you direct contact with whatever's been denied and dissociated in other parts of your brain, the things that are sad and scary and hurtful from the past. And when it shuts that down, this idea of projecting my sadness and my fear and my pain from the past onto a present moment situation, that collapses. So I'm going to hold love, conscious, active, and present. I'm going to look at that loving memory that you just had and the positive shift you had in your emotions. I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to choose to collapse my mind's lies by willingly canceling my goal for my girlfriend to love me, respect me, and stay connected to me. And just, doesn't that seem bizarre? Why would I do that? Be honest, isn't there a question in your head right now about why would I give up wanting somebody to love me, respect me, and stay connected to me?
Yeah, well, it feels almost impossible.
Exactly. And bizarre, right? Doesn't seem logical. This is a loving goal I have for her. I'm not saying I want her to be tortured and hurt. I'm saying I want her to love me and respect me and stay connected to me. So why would I cancel that? So take one of those nice calm breaths for a minute while I explain two various reasons. One is, right now, in this work we understand that I'm the one that creates my own emotions and my own experience of life inside of me with what I do with my thoughts. I'm the one that creates any emotion I have and any experience of life I have. I don't create the outside events, but I create how I choose to interpret and respond to them. Doesn't that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so in this moment, I'm generating sadness because of how I'm choosing to interpret and respond to this life event between me and this girlfriend, right?
Right.
So if I'm focusing on her and thinking she's the one who's causing my sadness, I can't actually look inside myself and figure out what this is about in me, what the actual dynamic process is that's generating sadness inside me. So that's the first thing. I need to cancel my focus on anything outside of me so I can turn the focus inside and find out how do I keep my focus so microscopic and myopic and negative, and what is this stirring up in me from the past that probably feeds helpless and hopeless and all that good stuff. The second thing is, this work and what we've read so far in the worksheet says I'm the one that creates my experience of life, and don't I deserve to be happy and have a loving relationship with another human being? Of course I do. Right? Of course you do. Agree with me. Grunt. Do something so I know you're there.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, you deserve that, right? And this worksheet talks about how you're the one that creates that. So the question has to be, how come you haven't created that experience for yourself yet? And without any blame, without any guilt or shame, we just recognize, oh, that must mean that there's some hidden part of me that believes I don't deserve this. Some negative construct about myself I must have downloaded from something in my past that I'm holding on to that says I don't deserve this. So that's why we cancel the goal, so we can find the hidden part of my mind that thinks I don't deserve to have somebody love me, respect me, and stay connected to me. So this is a temporary thing. We can always restate this goal later and hope that it has better results. But right now, as long as I focus on this goal to have her love me, respect me, and stay connected to me, I just get more and more sad because that's not what's happening, right?
Right.
So take a nice, deep, cleansing breath and just say, I cancel my need for her to love me, respect me, and stay connected to me.
I cancel my need for her to love me, respect me, and stay connected to me.
And now take another breath. And then the next step is, I have to ask someone or something outside of my conscious logical mind to assist me to process this differently. So who or what? You could say you're unconscious, you could say God, you could say your grandma or grandpa, you could say your best friend, you could say anything other than your conscious logical mind that you're going to ask for assistance in this work. Who do you want to ask, or what do you want to ask?
God, I guess.
All right, so we'll just say God. And the recommendation here is, Ruka Dakucha, which is this elemental force inside humans that's there to break off the effects of our errors and thoughts, guide us to truth and happiness, if we just ask it to. I'm going to ask God to incline me toward healing, to restore me to my awareness of my newborn essence as this energy of creation that some call love. I'm going to ask God to help me heal my denial. Denial about what? Denial that I'm the one that's actually creating this sadness, right? That the outside events in my life, whether it's a girlfriend leaving or somebody that I don't want to win an election or a traffic jam I'm in, that's not what's causing my emotions. As long as I think someone or something outside of me is causing my emotions, I'm in denial. So I'm asking for help to heal my denial. I'm asking for help to heal my capacity to generate this emotion of sadness. And I'm asking it to help me open a direct, conscious relationship with and gently remove anything in my brain that's actually causing this upset, this pain, this fear, this sadness. And take a nice deep breath. And now here's the second time we're asking you to do a little meditation. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
We want you to get comfortable. I usually recommend people close their eyes and or put their hand over their heart space, and that they remember to keep your breath moving as you silently inside your own mind say what I'm going to say out loud. And just let this be a little meditation for you, so you just soften into this. Kind of take this in the way a baby would take in a lullaby. I cancel my need to be right. Take a breath. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself. Keep the breath moving. I put my conscious logical mind on the shelf for now, and I ask to be shown the hidden part of my own mind that's actually creating this upset. I cancel my goal in this worksheet for my girlfriend to love me, respect me, and stay connected to me. And then I just put myself in the most open, allowing space I can. Just focus on your breathing and gently repeating over and over again. I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself. I specifically cancel my goal in this worksheet. And in that space of just breathing and softening and opening your mind, trust that anything that comes into your mind is going to be part of what you need to see to begin to heal here and move forward. It's all old stuff. It can't hurt you any more than it already has. Right now, if you're experiencing it, it's just because it's random, not random, but it's nerves firing in your brain. It's been resonated by the interpretation you're placing on this situation about how, oh my gosh, this means I'll never find anybody to love me. So just breathe and soften and notice what comes up. If an earlier memory in your life comes up, notice how old you were, where you were, who else was there, and what was happening. And just breathe and soften and trust the process and gently repeat. I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself. I put my conscious logical mind on the shelf for now, and with a soft, low, slow exhale breath, I let all of this tension go, and I just notice what comes to mind. And stay with that, with your breathing, with repeating that you cancel your need to be right, until one of three things happens. Either you feel this energy of sadness shift and fade and dissipate, or you have a remembrance from earlier in your life, whether it was in your single-digit years or in your teens, or you realize that your mind right now is just going to spin and go nowhere. And when one of those three things happens, take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. Slowly exhale down. And scan your body and notice what's the strongest emotion or the strongest physical sensation you're aware of right now? So just stay with it and breathe until one of those three things happens. And when you notice one of those three things, take a nice deep breath and let it all go. And scan your body and tell me what's the strongest emotion or the strongest physical sensation you're aware of right now. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
What's happening for you?
Feeling some exhaustion and some fear.
All right, so that's what you'd put in 6A. Exhaustion and fear. Exhaustion and fear. Perfect. Notice it's not the sadness that was there before. And did you have a flashback to an earlier time in your life, whether it was last week, last month, or 30 years ago?
Briefly, yeah.
And this is what we ask people to do. You don't have to say anything out loud to us about that, but make a note about it. If you want to share what you flashed on, you can say that, but make a note for yourself. Like, what age, roughly, would you say this memory was?
This is 17.
All right, so you're 17 years old, and the rest of that is we encourage people, if they have a worksheet or a blank sheet of paper in front of them, if it's a worksheet, flip it over to the blank side and just make notes. As many details as you can about what happened when you were 17. The sights, the sounds, the physical sensations, the emotions, the thoughts, the other people involved. And if you do that now, if you do that before we move on, you capture things that will just fade away if you don't write them down first.
Okay.
Do you have something to write with?
Let me.
Well, you don't need to. If you want to just say it to me, I can make the notes for you, or you can have it in the recording for later. You were going to say a lot of what?
I actually have something to write with here. But a lot of confusion and pain, feelings of abandonment, just complete confusion and desperation at this memory. Sort of an inability to be heard, complete powerlessness.
So this is a big one, right?
Yeah.
This is what I heard so far. A lot of confusion, pain, feelings of abandonment, helplessness.
Yeah.
And as you make any notes that you don't need to tell us about, but you make any notes about what that event was, the sights, the sounds, who else was there, what happened, capture it now before we move on. Sights, sounds, smells, where you were in the world, who else was there, etc. And the more that you write that down, even little snippets of it, it'll help you bring up the details that you need to heal and move through it. Whether you go back to it later today or in a week or two. And just keep your breath moving. And let me know when you're ready to move on, and we'll finish the worksheet. just keep breathing, even as you're writing.
Okay. Got a lot
All right. Okay. So then, in 6C, we're asked to be shown a time when we have violated the very goal we're holding for somebody else. And if you know of a time in your life that comes to mind when you say, I asked to be shown a time that I have not loved somebody, respected them, and stayed connected to them, if that pops into your mind, you can write their initials here in 6C, or you can make a list of those initials. What I usually do is I make the statement and I write it out. I ask to be shown a time when I have not loved, respected, and stayed connected to someone, because that's throwing it open for, my higher self or God or Holy Spirit or whatever to keep me aware of it if it happens in the near future, and to remind me of times I may have done it in the past that I still have negative energy around. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because one of the things that one of my other favorite teachers talks about is it's only when we wake up and realize that we can't stop ourselves from doing the very thing we think we're mad at somebody else for doing, that's when compassion is opened in us. So just take a breath. And I'm writing this. I ask to be shown a time when I have not fulfilled loving, respecting, and staying connected to someone. And then breathe. And then it says, principle of the universe is that by giving, I first get the original. So I'm going to choose to be grateful for this opportunity and this opportunity to heal. I'm going to choose truth and perfect love. And so I'm going to offer to the girlfriend or whoever was the target in this worksheet a truly loving goal that I'm going to do. And in this work, we remember that if I set a goal that I can't accomplish or don't accomplish, it still is running in my unconscious until it gets achieved or consciously canceled. So when I do worksheets like this with people, I encourage them to write a very specific goal that's time-limited and clear so they can know at the end of the day, did they accomplish that or they want to cancel it before they go to sleep. And so take a breath and slowly let it out. I would recommend, and you get to decide if you like it and you want to do this or you want to choose something else, I would recommend that you set as a goal in number 7 that you do 1 or 2 more worksheets on the sadness and fear or the exhaustion and the fear that you had at the end of this worksheet when you remembered the situation from when you were 17 years old. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Have you ever learned about the EFT tapping?
A little bit, not much.
Okay, so you could say the same thing if you're not that used to doing worksheets. You could say, I'm going to do a 10-minute session of EFT tapping around the topic of fear or around this abandonment that I felt at age 17. So you could do a worksheet or you could do the tapping, either one. But what we recommend is that we get specific and time-limited. So I'm just going to write both of these here, and you can choose either one, worksheet and tapping. And if you want to learn more about tapping or be guided through it, you can go to YouTube and type in Brad Yates, Y-A-T-E-S. And he has a 5-minute how to tap video, and then you can say Brad Yates and fear, Brad Yates and abandonment, Brad Yates and confusion, and he's got dozens and dozens of videos you can just press play and tap along with.
Okay.
And then there's one more little thing here. It says, in this little box, it says, I commit to love and to living a fully human life. And to do that and to help achieve that, I'm going to do a mass canceling of all the times I've ever wanted somebody to live into this goal that I have here in number 3. So I'm going to do a mass canceling of all the times I've ever wanted anybody to love me, respect me, and stay connected to me. This would include parents, grandparents, friends, girlfriends, etc. So just take a breath, if you will, and just say, I cancel a mass canceling of any time I've wanted somebody to love me, respect me, and stay connected to me. And just notice what you feel, whether you're saying it silently in your own mind or saying it out loud. I do a mass canceling of all the times I've ever wanted anybody to love me, respect me, and stay connected to me. And just breathe and notice what happens. What do you notice?
I feel pressure in my head and sort of a lightness in my body.
Okay, so take another breath and slow exhale. And take a scan of how strong would you say the sadness is that you started this worksheet with at 8 out of 10? How strong would you say the sadness is right now?
Maybe a 5 or 6.
Okay. Let me ask you how old you are.
Currently?
How old are you currently?
26.
Okay. So here's one of the things we like to make this conscious connection after we've done all of this work and ask the unconscious to show us stuff. You have 26 years of life, and you canceled the goal and asked to be shown the hidden part of your mind that's creating all of this sadness, and you went back to something, a specific thing around 17 years of age. It could have gone to 5 years old, 8, 13, it went to 17, right? So the thing that we use this worksheet for is to help us demonstrate to ourselves that the thing that was causing that intense sadness at 8 out of 10 is not what's going on between me and my girlfriend. It's that what I'm making it mean and the interpretation I've given it is resonating this deep, deep download of upset that I downloaded when I was 17 years old. When I had all of that confusion and pain and feelings of abandonment and helplessness and not being listened to. Remember that?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we like to bring together. So now we're blending the conscious awareness with this emotional and energetic shift you just had. So just take a breath and realize, wow, that's pretty interesting. If I canceled this thought and this goal, I'm on this internet show, I'm guided through this worksheet, and I could have gone to 5 years old or 12 years old or last year, and it went to this thing.
Right.
And that's how we're having this life in this energetic field that's governed by the law of resonance. So if I choose an interpretation for what's going on today with this girlfriend that has the same resonating energy frequency of all of this stuff that happened when I was 17 years old, I start to feel the flushing up of all those intense, hopeless, helpless feelings, thoughts of abandonment, intense confusion, emotional pain that I felt when I was 17.
Right.
But here I am almost 10 years later. I've been through a lot of life. I've had a lot of learnings. I've gained some wisdom. I've had a lot of life experiences. I've been through some challenges with my drug consumption, etc. I've mastered that. I'm not a 17-year-old, but boy, I sure feel as helpless and stuck and hopeless as I did when I was 17 when this gets stirred up, right?
Right.
But as I take a breath and soften and realize, wait a minute, I'm not 17 anymore. I can go back and do some EFT tapping and worksheets on those memories of what happened when I was 17, and I can release even more of that energy. And when that happens, I get to step into the lived experience of myself as a much more competent, much more life-wise 26, 28-year-old.
That makes sense.
That's how the worksheet process works. That's how so many of us that use it and find it valuable are benefiting from it, because we're unloading stuff from when we were quite a bit younger and we didn't have the resources we have now. But every time we choose an interpretation for a life event today that has the same energy frequency as what we downloaded when we were younger, we start to flood with the life experience, the worldview, the helplessness, the emotions that we had younger, and we don't get access to our coping mechanisms. We don't feel strong enough to deal with things as an adult when we're triggered.
Right.
So, questions or comments?
I think it's a good idea for me to do more worksheets on that time when I was 17, because the feelings I have now are similar to that. And I do feel like doing this worksheet presently really just brought up kind of different feelings and a different kind of sort of fear and sadness. So I think it would be really beneficial to do
All right.
more worksheets.
Well, I agree. I have had that life experience myself. Often when I do a worksheet, it leads to 4 or 5 others, and if I'm willing to keep my breath moving and do the EFT tapping and do the worksheets, it's what's helped to make my life better beyond words for these past 20 years. So I hope that continues to be a benefit to you. And we're right near the end of our first hour, so
Well,
I
thank
know
you
that
so
you
much
have.